Hello, my name is Beth Green, and welcome to Lighting the Way. As you may have seen on the initial graphic, today's theme is Does anyone want the truth for Christmas? Why we're so stressed. A lot of people want something for Christmas, right? They want to give gifts, they want a gift. And I can't think of a gift more important than the truth. And tonight I want to talk about the truth of why we are so stressed and see if we can do something about it. But first, I want to say a few things about the truth. And I'd like to tell you that on our show, we are going to be having a panel of your peers, people just like you who are grappling with the same things you are. And I will be bringing them on and introducing them later after I do a commentary. So just hang in there, and they'll be on soon. People don't want the truth. They would much rather have a new bag or a new car or something than the truth. But the truth is really what will set us free. And there are some reasons that it's hard to want the truth. One is that the truth is hard to know. You know, life is very complex, so things are not that simple. So we would like to have the truth be very simple and that, but you know something? Sometimes the truth really is simple, and we just don't want to hear it. Now, why wouldn't we want to hear it? If it's truth about us, it may be embarrassing. It could be threatening. It's like, oh, I have to admit that I'm really feeling this, or that I'm really greedy or lazy or jealous or want your girlfriend or whatever. Um, but then there's also another reason to be afraid of the truth. And I'm talking about the truth of our world, the truth of our society, because we may have to face things that feel absolutely overwhelming and downright dangerous to say anything about. There are things we are allowed to say, and then there are things that we're not allowed to say. And we may not even realize it, but we've been conditioned to not say certain things. So I would like to talk really briefly about the truth of someone said my typing is distracting, but I'm not typing. I think it was the dog. Anyway, the truth about our society is very hard to talk about, and it's hard to feel like there's anything we can do about it. And it is the reason that we are stressed. If you don't have enough money to pay for your health care, you will feel stressed. If you do not have enough money to give your children what they need, clothing, books, whatever they need, counseling, you will feel stressed. If you're living in a family of angry people because they're all stressed and they take it out on each other, you will feel stressed. If you live in a world where you are expected to do more and more work for less and less real income, you will feel stressed. And I could go on and on. Now, I don't care if people tell you that you should do yoga, you could do controlled breathing, you can do all of these things. What can I say? You can do all of those things. But that's not going to take away the stress. It may give you momentary relief, and believe me, I'm not speaking against yoga or deep breathing or anything like that. I'm just saying that those things can give us temporary relief. But we are being squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And we don't talk about that. Every once in a while, you'll hear Bernie Sanders talking about income inequality. And I have some numbers on that, which I think you might find interesting. But what is underneath this? What we don't talk about is the socio-political system under which we live. It's called capitalism. It's called the profit motive. You know what's so fantastic is that right now we have had an experience of a young man shooting the CEO of a health insurance company. Isn't that a wake up call that there's something wrong? Oh, I don't mean that there's just something wrong with healthcare. Everybody knows there's something wrong with the healthcare system. We are like, of all the advanced countries, we have the worst health outcomes and we spend the most money. So we know this, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, it's the insurance companies. It's the insurance companies are withholding help. No, it's the hospitals. Well, the hospitals are being taken over by private equity. It's too many doctors are going to specialties because they make more money that way. It's this, it's that, it's the other thing. You know what it all comes down to? It's the profit motive. It is the profit motive that is what is destroying healthcare. But we don't talk about the profit motive. We just say, oh, well, there's this and there's that, there's the insurance company. We don't talk about the underlying issue of the profit motive. We may talk about the fact that there's a lot of billionaires, but we don't talk about the economic system that is creating this. And I have some information that is just briefly that I'd like to share with you if you're not aware of it, which is Bloomberg is a news outlet focused on business, that Elon Musk's net worth has increased by 66% following Trump's election. Elon Musk is reported to now be worth, this is just his wealth, $424 billion. Now, I've got a little graph here that may be a little hard to read, but I'd like you to try to bear with me. See, here's Elon Musk in on December 3rd, right? He was up here about, oh, I don't know, it looks like $330 billion. And now he's up to 424. Although, you know, but he's not the only one. There's Jeff Bezos with these astronomical problems of income inequality and wealth inequality in the country. And now you say, well, is that really a problem? Yes, it's a problem because there are two aspects of that problem. One problem is that these billionaires have enough money to buy elections and to buy us and to sell us. And they have the power to determine our lives and our working conditions and our educational system, and by the politicians that make the decisions. Now, there is a lot that I need to share with you about how this comes about. And, you know, how do we get this billionaire class? And it seems to start very simple. Here's a guy, you have a candy store, you've got a guy working there. This guy is working at the candy store, and you have to make a profit. You have to pay your rent, you have to pay his wages, and you need to make a profit to support your family. So that's how it starts. And it ends up as billionaires. And I will definitely look forward to sharing with you in our next video how that happens and what that has to do with ego and capitalism. But let me tell you, I know in my heart that we need a revolution. We need a revolution, an inner revolution, where we stop fighting one another for scraps and trying to oppress one another to get some power over someone else, whether that's through race, class, sex, gender, or whatever. We need a revolution of kindness. We need to come back to some values. And there's so much for me to share with you about my ideas about these things. But we also need a revolution in the socioeconomic level. Because if we don't do something about it, it is only getting worse all the time. So I invite you to come back next week. I'd love you to love or like this show on YouTube or Facebook, anywhere you're watching this. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button. And please follow my Facebook page, especially the Facebook, uh, the public page. And so I'm inviting you to come back. And next week, I'm going to be continuing this conversation. And we are together going to start mobilizing ourselves mentally and emotionally. But the first thing we need is the truth. And that's what I guarantee you that I will share with you the very best of my ability. Not a bunch of jargon, not a lot of words, but the truth. And now I'm going to bring you to you our first guest, James Maynard.
Hello.
Our second guest is Lizzie.
Hi.
Our third guest is Todd.
Hi there.
And our fourth guest is Amy, who seems to be having difficulty getting on camera, but she is with us. So, guys, I threw you a ball out of left field. I did not prepare people for what I was going to. They only knew the part of the topic, which was going to be, does anyone want the truth for Christmas? They didn't hear the part of why we're so stressed, and they didn't know that I was going to call for revolution. So I just want you to know that. And I've invited these people on, and they live the same kind of lives that the rest of us do. They are squeezed too, and I would love to invite them to share their thoughts on this topic, starting with James.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment that the happiest countries on earth, according to the polls that are taken every year, are in Scandinavia. And why is that? Well, they have what's called democratic socialism. And so the people's basic needs are met and people are happier. They're not being run by the profit motive. They're being run by, okay, we're all in this together. How can we make sure everybody's needs are met? They have a social safety net. So, and when people run for office, they don't have to go to lobbyists and big moneyed people to finance their campaigns. They're paid for by the government. And so the issues are what they run on, not on who has the most money to do the most advertising, and thus keep perpetuating this profit system you're talking about.
Great. So, are you saying that you agree with my general premise?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think we need to shift out of that, shift away from that.
We
And
need to.
the democratic socialism, or they call it the social democrats or the Scandinavians countries, it works. People are happier.
Yes, I think this is a really important point that in our world, with the profit motive running everything, we don't have security. We have no social safety net. I'm almost 80 years old, and we don't have, and James is 80, and we are related by marriage, and which means, but it doesn't mean he had to agree with me.
That's
I
right.
didn't, but we don't have enough money to retire, just like the rest of you. We are being squeezed. So, who would like to speak next?
I'll go. I see that we lost Todd somehow.
Yeah, somehow we lost Todd, and I don't know what's happening with Amy's. Maybe she isn't. She's having difficulty getting on because of her computer. Yes.
I agree. I started feeling tense when you're like, okay, I'm going to bring something up that's like needs to be talked about. And nobody's talking about it. But I do feel the same way. I work in healthcare, and I've been in this field for almost 30 years, and I've seen how it's being squeezed over time. And coming into this profession when I graduated, I thought I'd live comfortably. But now I'm living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
In a field that, is needed, but it's like, my gosh, because the insurance companies are not providing or not reimbursing as much, and it's just all about profit. And I feel really upset walking to work, and I see homeless people every day, and there's nobody's helping to take care of them. And I'm like, I can't do anything to, I can give them, some money here and there, but I can't take them in. And to see our government spend a lot of money on other issues in the world, I can understand those issues, but it's like, why don't we have that social net here, that safety net here? Why do we have so many people that don't have their needs met? Why don't people care? Why is it about money? Why do those people that make so much money, why do they need more? Don't they see people are hurting? Don't they care?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're caught up in this system too. I see. Amy is now on with the camera. So Lizzie is speaking, Amy, but welcome. Glad that you were able to join us. And I don't know what happened to Todd. So I appreciate the things that you're saying. And, part of the problem is that people are out of their minds. And when I say that we need an inner revolution as well as a socioeconomic revolution, I mean people are not well mentally, are not well emotionally. People are fighting one another. People are insecure. People are jockeying for power. Let's blame the immigrants. If you look at, I think Bernie said that a couple of years ago, 3 Americans owned as much wealth as the bottom 50%. 3. You say it's not that we're spending too much money abroad. Oh, somehow Todd has been able to get back. Todd, welcome. I hope you've been able to listen to the show.
No, I haven't. My internet was out. I had to switch to the other one.
Okay. Well, we're talking to Lizzie, and I've been talking just briefly. I've been talking about the need for a revolution, an inner revolution where we move into caring and love and connection, and also a revolution on the socioeconomic level that we've got to rethink capitalism. And I talked about income and wealth inequality, and that this is not just accidental. And in future shows, I'm going to talk about how this happens and what this has to do with ego and what it has to do with capitalism. But this is just the beginning today. And Lizzie has been sharing. James was talking about the nations in the.
Yes, I heard him. I heard his part.
And then,
Scandinavia.
good. And then Lizzie's been talking about how she does feel squeezed, because I've been talking about how we feel squeezed, as a healthcare worker, and that she couldn't believe that she would be here 30 years later, worrying, living paycheck to paycheck. And also how upset she is by seeing homeless people and, can't anything be done about it? But that is really the sad truth. Yes, something can be done about it. But who's in power? Who's going to do something about it? So, okay. Who would like, Lizzie, were you done sharing? Lizzie, we can't hear you.
Sorry, when I'm not talking, I like to go on mute just for
I'd
noise.
appreciate it if you guys would go on mute because when you're not talking, because there's noise. Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to talk about, what can be done, but it does feel so like a huge problem. What can we do? And especially, there's studies that show people who make tons of money, their brains are now different. And so how are we going to?
So their brains are now different or no different?
Now.
Oh.
Their brains have changed.
Wow, that is fascinating, Lizzie. I would like to share that we've gotten a couple of comments on Facebook. Tracy says hello and Catalina sends a love. So that's really nice. Thank you. Well, you're asking the question of what are we going to do about it? And I am not going to answer that today because I have to explain over time how this is happening. But the first thing we have to do about this is tell the truth. And we don't. And, if you went to the doctor and you had a disease that there's no cure for, let's say, cancer, in the day had very little that they could do for someone with cancer. Or polio, could do anything for people with polio. You still go to the doctor and you get a diagnosis. So, people will say, well, you can't do anything about it, so I don't have to listen to you. No. The first thing we have to do is acknowledge that there's a problem, diagnose the problem, and come together and start searching for solutions together. And that's what we can do. So who would like to share next? Thank you so much.
I'll share.
Okay.
I know it affects our society. It affects our stress level. I'm on the higher end of the income. I'm not a billionaire, but I mean, so I don't feel squeezed in the way that maybe some other people do, but I see how it affects me also, and affects, my morale, to see the ultra wealthy just getting wealthier, and the bottom 50% getting shafted.
The bottom, all 99% are getting shafted. It isn't just, and I bet, Todd, you would be surprised to find out where you stand. You think you're on the higher level? Do you have $424 billion worth of assets?
No, of course not.
No. And I think,
but I can't say that I'm really struggling or feeling squeezed, with our combined income, my wife and myself.
No, you're not as squeezed as other people, as maybe James and I are, or Lizzie is. However, what I'm saying is this is part of the brainwashing. And I cannot wait to go on with Lighting the Way and continue these conversations, because you are brainwashed into thinking that you are more okay than you are, in order so that you think you're different from other people, so you don't, work with them. Well, I happen to know that you just bought a vehicle. Were you not struggling to try to figure out how you're going to pay for it?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had to consider and figure out how to, do it so that it was affordable, so that we could make it work. Yeah.
That's right.
It wasn't like, oh, I can just go buy this vehicle with cash. No. No.
Exactly. So while I appreciate what you're saying, I said it's very, very interesting, because you see, we get divided in our own minds. It's like, well, I'm not homeless, so I'm okay. Well,
well, I wanted to tell the truth that I wasn't, because that's what this is about. But I understand also that I understand what you're saying about, we get brainwashed into thinking, okay, I'm good because I'm not in that, I'm not living paycheck to paycheck.
Unless your wife loses her job.
Right. Yeah.
And no, I'm not making fun of you, Todd. I really appreciate what you said, but I do believe that we are brainwashed so that we don't realize that we are all together in this. And so I appreciate your saying that. When you're saying it, are you talking about capitalism? Are you talking about income inequality? What are you talking about? What is the it? You kept saying the word it.
I don't know. I don't know what I was referring to. Gosh, I don't recall saying it, so I'm not sure what I was referencing. Okay.
You kept saying, yes, I am impacted by it. I am also impacted by
the income inequality, by the capitalist system. I don't like what I see. I feel angry that there is such a disparity, and that so many people are suffering, and it's not necessary. That we could have a more just and equitable system, and everyone would be better off. So that's the it I'm referring to. It's the fundamental economic system that we live under in this country with capitalism. And it's off, and people know it, but we see that people are snapping. And I think that will continue to happen unless we address it in a comprehensive, thoughtful way. Otherwise, people are going to be angry, and they are going to shoot people. And, I can just see kind of this rising tide of animosity, and it feels scary, unsafe, that if this trend continues, that we can, we're seeing reduced life life expectancy, already. And this generation is the first one, and I don't know how many generations that we're seeing life expectancy going backward. And I think that has a lot to do with the stress that so many of us are under, and the lack of healthy eating and all the things that come along with that stress, the ways we cope with that stress.
Yeah, beautiful. I totally agree. And you said the C word, capitalism.
Capitalism, yeah.
I think people are afraid to say that because, if you identify capital, I'm not saying feudalism was better.
Right, yeah.
I'm not an idiot, but I know that there's something wrong, and I know what direction we should go in, which is what I call the potluck revolution, which is you give what you can, what you have, and you take what you need. And that, by the way, is the definition of communism, which, of course, you can't use that word because then you're going straight to hell in a handbasket. And everybody's going to stop listening to you because they have this association that, that means you're the Soviet Union or whatever it is. And there's a lot of fear. So when I asked you what it was, it's because there's a lot of fear to talk about capitalism. Not just
I agree.
inequality.
I agree.
Thank
Just
you.
look what they did to Bernie in the 2016 and 2020 election. I mean, he was ahead of Joe Biden in 2020, and they just all rallied to shut him down.
Shut him down and shut him up. And he doesn't even talk about capitalism. He talks about greed. So, but let's get real. So, Amy, would you like to share? Were you able to hear most of it?
Oh, no, I heard all of it. I just couldn't get I was on my phone and I just couldn't get a picture or sound to work on it.
Oh.
I mean, coming from me, I could hear you and see you.
Working now.
So, I'm not sure what to say. I think it's almost invisible that we have that we live. My awareness that I'm in a capitalistic society.
Yes.
It's not even something you mention. Like the sky's blue. Yeah, I know. But I earned the same amount I did 40 years ago when I finished my residency.
As a doctor.
Yeah.
People don't know that.
Oh, yeah. I earn more per hour by far playing my harp for weddings, which I prefer anyway. But I don't have enough weddings to quit medical stuff. But I mean, what a game that is. I don't know if you run into this or not, Lizzie, but when I was working how should I say this? When I was doing primary care and I was in billing for services, you would come up with the highest cost you could, knowing that Medicare or insurance would pay as little as possible. And so you're playing a game to try and get a fair amount of money. I mean, fair by fair, I mean reasonable. To make it look unreasonable, because it's profit, like you say, profit driven, as opposed to
human needs driven. Needs driven. The needs of human beings and the needs of.
I mean, instead of needs driven.
Yes.
Right, exactly. And having to come up with, well, anyway, when James was talking about Scandinavian, maybe some other places too, they're not all that happy there either. I was reading about that's a little bit of whitewash, but nevertheless, they have a lot less stress regarding a lot of social nets that we don't have or may disappear. The threat is there that Congress will decrease Medicare, or maybe it'll decrease other things that people depend on. Like, I'm an independent contractor. I have no pension.
Right.
And so kind of I feel like we're at the mercy of these billionaires who are now going to be heading all kinds of departments.
Yeah.
And who don't need any of these things that we do, or most of us do. It's just kind of scary. I mean, I know I'm just stressed because I'm just waiting for things to fall apart. I know you were not talking about Trump per se, but I'm still waiting, but that's what I'm waiting to happen, is that things will just fall apart. Like they haven't already, but more so. You know, the what do you call it? Climate change or health, that, you know, the vaccines, just, you know, polio will come back. All kinds of horrible things are going to happen. So I know I'm stressed, but I feel like it's just, I'm waiting for all this stuff to go wrong. That's separate from capitalism. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not, because these guys are billionaires, all these folks who's choosing.
Yeah.
Take that back.
Take it back.
I take it back.
You know, I'm so glad you said that, because it's ego and capitalism go hand in hand. The ego says it's all about me and my needs, and capitalism is it's all about me and my needs. And you know, we have the ego running amok, and I think what you know, everybody is putting their finger on what's happening, and the mental health crisis that we're seeing is so much related to people's stress. And this whole thing about white men fighting back and wanting to oppress women again is about their stress and their loss. You know what I mean? If you're in a hierarchy, all we've got left we're fighting for. And we're fighting in this hierarchy of, well, I don't want the black people to take away my, you know, piece of cheesecake. And, you know, when these billionaires are getting away with the whole thing, you know, they say, here's the cheesecake, you divide it up. Meanwhile, they get the villa. And, you know, it's part of the way capitalism works. And it's the inevitable increase of power at the top. And I can't wait to come back next week and share an understanding about that. And also, perhaps I'll be able to share next week the role of women and the role of housework and how all of this kind of fits together. But James, can you remind me what I said I was going to talk about next week?
Yeah, you had indicated to me that you were going to talk on the theme of We Are the Messiah.
Oh, yes. It's Christmas, because our next show is going to be on Christmas. And it's going to be a Christmas show. And it's like the Messiah is here and it is us. And this goes to the question of what are we going to do about it? Because people had hoped that Trump was going to fix it. Right. So he puts all these billionaires in charge. Right.
And also, we would have to be willing to give up some things too, for income inequality to be impacted at all.
No.
No?
No. That's another myth.
Oh.
It's an absolute myth. It's like Social Security. If they just started taxing higher levels of income, Social Security and Medicare would be completely solvent. It's another myth. Anyway, this is great. You see, we don't have to give it, but all we have to do is give up our pride and stop fighting one another. But we'll get to that. Anyway, I think that's it for tonight. I want to thank you so much. I would like to thank my illustrious guests for joining us. I would like to invite you to come back next week for, I think I'm going to be talking about We Are the Messiah, but I never really know until the last minute what I'm going to be doing. And I'm actually very relieved, because I feel like our guests, you know what I'm talking about. You don't need jargon. You don't need labels. It's common sense. It is just the truth, isn't it? It's just the truth. And we have to be willing to start saying it. And when people start saying, oh, it's the greedy insurance companies, you say no. Yes, it's capitalism.
And we have to be willing to say that maybe there's another way to do this.
Maybe there
which
is.
doesn't come up very much. It's more like, whose fault is it?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
now that you're saying that.
Okay, so I think I showed you this graph. I was so proud of myself
yes.
that I did this
Yes.
graph.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now we are going to close this program. I am going to ask you, the audience, I'm challenging you. If you felt any resonance with this program, would you share it? Share it with people you're scared to share it with. You know, we have to start with the truth and we have to be willing to speak. And we need courage and we need to encourage one another. So, like or love the show on Facebook, give it a thumbs up on YouTube, click on the notifications, share this program. People need to hear this message, and let's keep coming together. So, thank you. We'll see you next Wednesday, I hope, at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. And tomorrow night, we hope to be doing magical improvs because we think we have fixed the internet problems and that we're going to be playing music. And, it worked tonight, so I'm hopeful. All right. Thank you so much. Come back soon and let me get that music playing. Whoever is typing, please stop. Thank you.